You're live now to the ground. I want to bring in my colleague Blessed Soga and Maxwell Agbagba, who are ready for us this afternoon. And Blessed, are we ready for this to begin? Is the stage set yet? We're told to expect that this will start at 12 p.m. Are we closer to that happening?
Well, that's right. This is the University of Education, Winneba, in the central region, where the NDC says it will be outdooring a document that will reset Ghana. That's the reason for which the central region, specifically Winneba, is the choice for the NDC in terms of the outdooring of the 2024 manifesto of the party. This is your election headquarters, and we're coming to you live from this very grounds where John Dramani Mahama, in a few minutes from now, will lead the opposition party into announcing their grand plan to solve what they believe is Ghana's challenge going into the 2024 elections and beyond. My name is Blessed Soga, and I'm here with my colleague Maxwell Agbagba, bringing you a special coverage of the outdooring of the 2024 manifesto of the NDC, which we will be giving you breakdown of in a few moments from now. In fact, rank and file of the party arriving in their numbers to be a part of what the party believes is history. Some showers in terms of rains happening in the early hours of today. Some NDC members believe this is a good omen, a sign that indeed the party will have victory. And of course, we have some of the leading members here already with us. Before we get to them though, my colleague Maxwell Agbagba is here with us. And Maxwell is said to be a very long day because you've been with the leader of the party, John Dramani Mahama, all throughout the period, throughout the country, where he's been to the 16 regions getting feedback ahead of the outdooring of this document. Walk us through the journey for John Dramani Mahama and how tough it has been for him moving day and night and getting feedback from people.
Yeah, it's been quite a difficult one, but I think John Mahama really demonstrated a lot of strength, visiting some of the places, being embedded with the campaign and reporting on his visit to some of the constituencies. In some of the constituencies, in some of the regions actually, Upper East region for instance, in a day he could visit, like, let's say about 8 constituencies in a day. And you have the members of the press corps sometimes saying that they are tired. Sometimes you leave the hotel as early as 6 a.m. and return as late as 1 a.m. And at exactly 8 a.m. the following day, again, you're on the move visiting, other constituencies. After the launch, that launch in Tamale, he visited the Upper East region, went to the Volta region, launched the Youth Manifesto at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, had that youth engagement also at the Bukom Arena. And then today, he's going to be here unveiling the grand plan, for the NDC, the plans for the NDC. But tell you what, we have a scoop of what is going to be in that document. In fact, I've been moving around trying to scan the place and see what exactly it is like to be here. I'll be telling you shortly, but in the background you can see there are a lot of crash barriers here. If you do not have accreditation, you cannot get access to the main auditorium. You need an accreditation, you need a ticket to be able to get access to the main hall here at the University of Education.
We need to explain that to our viewers, that what you're seeing now is a security check, and priority is simply being given to invited guests because the hall, we understand, is full to capacity. And priority is now just being given to those who are invited, so they could make up for the 2,000 plus capacity of the auditorium. Beyond that, in the rear of the auditorium, you have scores of people, rank and file of the party, and the base, of course, lining up, and of course, gearing up for what's going to be a big exercise for today.
But the good thing is there are giant screens for even those who do not have access to the main hall. There are giant screens for people to still have a good view of what is happening, in the main auditorium. I'm sure you want to interact right now.
Indeed. Let's get to it, because many of you are out there, and this is why we're your election headquarters. We need to know about what's happening or likely to happen after the NDC outdoors manifesto. Even before that, there's a need for us to even gauge the mood find out from the NDC what they have in store for the people and also what's likely to happen today. Fortunately, we've been joined by the Deputy National Communications Officer of the NDC, Malik Basintale, who's been in the news very recently for quite some fiery statements. I don't know if we want to start off with that though, but some showers of blessings, you call it, here in the central region.
Very solid.
A good sign for the NDC?
Very solid, a good sign. Even God is bearing testimony to the fact that the future of Ghana is going to be exhibited today, and people are going to see the next steps to take from 2025. Confused businessmen out there who have become so hopeless because of bad leadership and incompetent leadership are finally going to see hope today, and they are going to know which corridor to invest their monies in. All companies that have exhibited capital flights out of this country, we are certain they will be watching this afternoon, and they will take a determination, they will make a decision as to whether to get back into the country in 2025 or to finally stay away from the corridors of this country.
I see already that you have a lot in store for the people who delve into the document shortly. But let's talk about the choice for the central region itself. This is not the first time. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, the leader of the NDC, John Mahama, was here to introduce Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman to the people of the central region. You're back to this region again to adore your manifesto. What's it about the central region for the NDC?
No. This is the first major program we are holding here. Obviously, Professor Nana Jane's outdooring couldn't have been done anywhere but in her home region. And so she was brought back to her people to you see, honorable, I'll tell you, they've been smuggled on the back of a donkey to Burkina. Anyway, we came to the central region, to outdoor her to her people, to tell them that indeed they gave birth to a solid woman for the party, and we are proud of the kind of woman and the kind of leadership they want to give this country. This is the first independent major program we are organizing in the central region. And obviously, they are part of Ghana. And so if we decide to choose it here, it's as equal as we choosing a program in the Ashanti region or we launching our campaign in the northern region. Nothing takes it away. The only way we would be surprised is if we launch our campaign out of the corridors of this country. So long as they remain Ghanaians, so long as they remain viable people to vote in this election, there's no wrong and there's no difference in launching our manifesto here. I am confident that our choice of Professor Nana Jane is a remarkable one. She's the female future of this country. She's one to break the glass ceiling. She's going to open the doors for fellow other women, young women, yet the unborn, your daughters, your sisters, and not just open the door, but hold it for all other young women to pass through. President Mahama has a vision for this country. He says he cannot know everything. In fact, President Mahama, women know the price of pad, sanitary pad, better than President Mahama does. Women know the value of a woman's bank better than President Mahama does. And President Mahama says, I will focus on policy, but at any point in time I forget any, Professor Nana Jane is viable and competent enough to remind me of the Women's Bank, to remind me of the National Apprenticeship Program, to remind me of the boost in young entrepreneurs, and to remind me of 1 million coders that will be trained in this country, to remind me of the 24-hour economy, that women must participate and women must be involved. So like I said, the future of this country will be exhibited today. 1.8 million unemployed graduates out there would finally find hope. The other people launched something they call the manifesto. 44 pages of it was copy and paste. You know, copy and paste, Control C, Control V from the NDC's 2020 manifesto.
I don't know why
216 other pages. 216 plain sheets were better than 216 pages of the NPP's manifesto. Nothing in stock. There were no solutions for this country. President Mahama has identified the problems. He says there is hardship. He says there is unemployment. He says there's high cost of living. He says our dollar is weak. He says petrol prices are high. And so he sat down, he's interacted with the TUC, he's interacted with the GPRTU, he's interacted with the persons of the victims of the collapsed banks, and together they have come out with pragmatic solutions towards rectifying the problem of this country. In 2025, my brother, picture a Ghana being resetted. Picture of Ghana doing well in inflation. Picture a Ghana doing well in growth rates. Today, you will be marveled. You have been marveled with President Mahama's credentials already. You are marveled at Kempiski. Today, you will be marveled that President Mahama is indeed a nation builder and is the man who can take this country to the promised land. So we are urging all the youth. They will come with money. Beware, the kicks of a dying horse are really hard and last minutes are dangerous. They'll bring money, they'll infiltrate the system with money, but remember Asin North. that the people of Asin North chose the future of this country other than money. They chose progress other than 200 cedi new notes. If you don't have a bank account or a Momo account, open one. MPP will dole out a lot of money. But on December 7th, vote for John Mahama, vote for Professor Nana Jane, and let's transform the corridors of this country. Thank you very much.
Malik, we'll see you soon, and very shortly John Mahama himself will be arriving here in the central region, Winneba specific, to be specific, the University of Education Winneba, where the National Democratic Congress is outdooring their document. Let's speak to some members of parliament. Madam Gisela Teta is here, we have Dr. Jessa also here, all MPs, and they say women first, so let's extend the courtesy to women now. Malik was just talking about women and speaking about how the NDC says it will empower women and that this manifesto is also about the women.
Indeed, you know, there's one very formidable proposition in the manifesto for women, which is a women's bank. When we go to our communities and we tell them that there's going to be a bank specially for them, such that they'll be able to get finance that is not as costly as they are experiencing now, they get very excited. Because in the rural areas, some of us have a lot of rural areas and, you know, they have to get some facilities and their interest rates are killing. And I mean, these are just women who are just trying to make a living, fending for themselves, their families. Some of them are widows. You know, women need help. And so this is something that this is a hit. And I'm just waiting for it because I'm going to get a branch in my constituency.
How do you respond to the criticism against the NDC that you're simply taking advantage of women? You know, you're playing the women card as opposed to the NPP.
We're not taking advantage of them. We are responding to their needs. You know, our manifestos are the people's manifesto. We don't just dream and think that, okay, this is what we want. We are responding to people's needs and wants. And more of their needs, actually, even before the wants. So you realize that our plans, we really discuss them thoroughly. We brainstorm in different sectors, different perspectives, different views. And so really, we come out with this, and this is what they want. This is what they want. You know, after that, when the woman gets some kind of financing, those who want to go into their cottage industries or boost up their cottage industry businesses, they'll be able to do that. Those who have other trades and other skills, they'll also be able to do that. I mean, we just want to survive, and so that people's hustle will be rewarded. And our women, just look at them. From north to south, east to west, they really have a lot of challenges. So it's not any propaganda, we're not playing any woman card, it is a fact, and we are responding to women's needs.
We're in the central region, you're also a member of that caucus. What's it about the central region for the NDC? Just a couple of weeks ago, the leader of the party was here to introduce the vice presidential candidate. We're here again in the central region to outdoor the manifesto of the NDC. Is there any unique situation, something happening in the central region we don't know about?
I think there's something unique happening in 2024. So the running mate is from the central region, right? The majority leader is from the central region, and the minority leader is from the central region. I can imagine those two gentlemen literally locking horns. And that is why the central region is so critical. Everybody is battle ready, and so we shall see.
And indeed, we wish you all the best today as we go through that process. But the central region is where we are. Dr. Jessa is also here with us. And I recall, speaking about the minority leader, he issued a statement a couple of days ago talking about the state of our agri sector and how, of course, for instance, the cocoa board is now being indebted. Yeah. The NDC is so concerned about that, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because as you would agree, the cocoa subsector is the backbone of Ghana's economy. And it has been the reason why we have had increased foreign exchange transactions between Ghana and its trading partners and so on. But you would observe that in the last 7 years, Cocoa Board, that is the board that manages our cocoa subsector, has been running a debt loss in their accounts for the last 7 years. Now, out of the blue, the production of cocoa beans have also been reducing, to the extent that even last year, the Cocoa Board requested a loan from the syndicated banks of 1.5 billion Ghana cedis, unfortunately, in fact, 1.5 million Ghana cedis, but unfortunately, they couldn't raise that money because there was no guarantee in production security and even the high rates. They were only able to get 800 million Ghana cedis. And out of the 800 billion Ghana cedis, as we speak, Cocoa Board has defaulted in paying back that loan. As we speak, Cocoa Board owes 250,000 metric tons of cocoa beans that they are yet to to pay back to those the forward sale to. So there are a lot of issues with Cocoa Board. But let's go forward. Going to our manifesto, this manifesto that is going to be launched today is a direct response to issues identified in the cocoa subsector, in the vegetable horticultural production subsector, the food subsector, and everything around agriculture, poultry, and so on. So, for example, there's a proposition about Yeridua. Yeridua is on the vegetable and horticultural production system.
And what would that do specifically?
That will target irrigation facilities and water bodies around specific identified located areas where there will be a conscious, deliberate promotion of vegetable production. You know, the story about tomato importation and what has happened, this is a direct response to such horticultural challenges about, how do you call them? Tomato, onion importation, and so on. So we believe
being specific about cocoa board, because that's where the controversy is.
Sure.
What solutions are you designing as the NDC to tackle that? Because they've been challenged for quite some years now. Yeah.
So you will see this in the manifesto, but I can assure you that they are deliberate, consciously tailored programs that will respond to the challenges of the cocoa subsector for now. For example, just this year, they'll be able to produce only able to buy 435,000 metric tons. They have to pay 250,000 metric tons out of that. So literally there's nothing. They have spent about 960 million Ghana cedis on cocoa productivity improvement projects, and then spent 3.4 billion Ghana cedis in managing the cocoa sector, the cocoa board alone. So prioritization, mismanagement. This is one key engineering that will be done in the next NDC administration.
Okay, so let me take your message to the people of Ghana as we wrap up. I'll start off with you, Dr. Jasau, and then wrap up with the Honorable.
Ghanaians, NDC is launching its manifesto today. This manifesto will be a social contract that we will sign with you. They are plausible proposals in all the sectors of our economy. In the agriculture, we have, in the agricultural sector, we have the poultry farm to table program. We have a lot of those arrangements that will make sure we revamp the poultry industry, revamp the crop subsector, support farmers in ways that they can produce, and not just produce, add value to the production so that our import bill of rice and other grains can begin to draw down. At the moment, we spend about $3 billion annually to import rice and other related commodities. There was a conscious, deliberate program. Look out for their manifesto. Indeed. President Mahama will announce them in detail. Thereafter, we will come back to you and give more information on how we will operationalize some of these things. But be rest assured, there are a lot of plausible programs that will respond directly to solving the challenges that we are facing as a country.
And indeed, you'll be back on the channel very shortly where we would have the discussions around agriculture. Indeed. Your final message to the people of the Central Region and those watching us abroad.
We seek power for purpose, and we are prepped up and we are prepared to take over the next government in 2025. And we are not going to leave any stone unturned, and we will ensure that Ghana's resources are well kept and well managed for the people, and the people will see the benefits of somebody seeking power, and not just to play, or not just to make noise, or not go begging around for it. When you get it, you abuse it. Ghanaians will see that we sought it for a purpose, and that purpose is something that they themselves will appreciate, and we know that we're on the right track with them. We are building the Ghana we want together, and we have to reset Ghana to do that. And I think that we are on course for that.
Thank you so much. And the NDC calls it resetting Ghana for jobs, prosperity, and accountability. But we're still here at the University of Education, Winneba, where we are, interrogating the matters even before the NDC officially endorsed that document, which it says will provide solutions to the challenges facing the country. A couple of minutes ago, we had some key figures of the NDC touched down here, but they're coming throughout the period from this angle where we're taking you to, giving you a sense of what to expect. Yes, we talked about security, we talked about whatever the arrangement is in terms of managing people, because the capacity of the hall, as we understand it, is just around 2,000, 3,000. Now, there's also a mechanism for the arrival of guests, and this is where all of the action is happening, which I want to take you to right here, to this side, the left wing of the the auditorium here at the University of Education, Winneba, where in a few moments from now we will be having and seeing the leader of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, who will be arriving soon. A while ago we had Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who just passed by to a rousing welcome by members of the NDC, and you can see scores of supporters of the NDC here who are eagerly waiting just to see the arrival of these dignitaries. And you can see to your right side, you can see some of the dignitaries arriving in their convoy. But there's a heightened security here, obviously because of the day that we have, and it is all happening because of one particular reason, the fact that we have key members of the NDC, and not just the NDC, members of the diplomatic corps, and also other leading figures of civil society joining the whole event here. And Maxwell, we must say that this appears to be a very tight security here, and you can even see in your shots now the security trying as much as possible to control what some of the security arrangements are. You see the police officers there pointing to some of the supporters of the NDC. And I believe this is happening because of the kind of arrangements we have here.
Exactly, and I think we must applaud the NDC for putting in place the security measure. We all know events that took place, in other parts of the world. I'm talking about specifically the US. Here, for instance, if you come in here, in previous campaign, during the 2020 elections, I was embedded with the NDC campaign. I didn't see this kind of tight security, but it appears that things have changed, this year, to the extent that if you're getting access to the main auditorium, they would have to use body scanners to scan your body, even after going through the rigorous checks that they've put in place. Before getting access to the inner perimeter at the main gate, you would have to be checked with a body scanner before you get access, to the place. So for party faithfuls, for party sympathizers who are unable to get into the inner perimeter, they've made available giant screens where there are seats where some people are actually seated and watching proceedings, which will be starting, in some minutes from. But it looks like, some of them, many of them won't actually.
Just look to the opposite side of where we are. Quite a charged atmosphere. You can see people waiting eagerly just to see the leading figures of the NDC arrive. And indeed, it's a very, very packed area. We are just awaiting the arrival of John Dramani Mahama, who will soon be arriving, because I believe Johnson Asiedu Nketia came a while ago, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He arrived here a while ago. We've seen a Thong Member of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, and other members of the NDC, arriving here on the ground. A lot of members of Parliament, have arrived here. The flag bearer should be arriving, shortly. But I've been interacting with some of the party faithful, some of the party sympathizers. Key amongst the things they have been talking about is the 24-hour economic policy, and it seems to be the refrain, it seems to be the chorus for a lot of people who we've been interacting with here. They believe that a 24-hour economy is going to provide a lot of jobs. And of course, on the campaign trail with the NDC flag bearer, it's one of the major policies, he's been mentioning in all the regions that we've visited.
Okay, let's try and, of course, hear from some of the people who are here. Pacho, your friend was saying, what do you need saying?
Pacho, your friend Usu from Kumasi.
Kumasi, hey, Ofri Kumasi, and our central region say, I didn't hear.
Nina say John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, or I've been part of Magana Mebunu. And intimacy about Bruno, some Banameti in the power, or the Magana Mebuna. Yes, you bet me, and Tefa, Bedina, Abanyasua. On to bet my boy Ghana, my Nutina Mamma by Assably, never talent, and maybe Manifesto Papa or do my Ghana, and if that Quable South, I'm free by or Santa Mantem.
Ashanti region here, known NPP stronghold. How come you're, supporting the NDC this time?
To say now, Casano, the two back and say MPP, Ashanti region NPP stronghold. And you hope him, who was sitting on what to about. And here was Santimantem, who then another Danquafuado, and a Dr. Mahmoud Baum, by my best or mine. And Yamabia and Koyo, my name. Yana Yamabunia, Philippines, si anka no kura ma ye ho ana me ka se me santini ti chinchina me ti sentimentum ntu aba MMPP ana ma ni no kura ma me ho nti wo se ye ensesemu ne yesesemu ne ma John Dramani Mahama ba ne yesu etimi fili o man na o man no enka nkro ne ye yo timi bra magunu mu ne yenso ye di ye anu nti na ma me support eye NDC amanyoko asable ma ba ha me betai John Dramani Mahama na ma betie manifesto papa o de wa ma Ghana magunu.
Right. You're frozen.
Me pacho ye fra me Kojo Usu.
Right, so Kojo is basically saying that he's coming all the way from the Ashanti region, and he came all the way from the Ashanti region because he believes the NDC holds the solution to some of the challenges confronting the nation. Let's wrap up with some more reactions. Very briefly, your name and where you're coming from.
I'm Roman Dayak. I'm from Northeast.
Northeast region.
Yeah.
That's a long way coming.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to leave Northeast to come here?
Because the way the country is now going, if we realize that if we didn't wake up, the way we are now going as youth, we don't know where we are towards, to. That's why we are struggling to win the change for this 2024 election. That's why we are here. You
are a young man. The NPP launched their manifesto last week. Didn't you find anything in that document to encourage you?
Oh no, like the promise that they even give. There is nothing like that that is going to benefit with the youth in the country. And it wasn't encouraging to me.
So if you're watching, I mean, there are so many people watching us now, what would you want the world to know? And what would you want to tell them about the election, this coming election?
I will encourage all my colleagues, youth, that we should, come together and change. And like John is an experienced man we ever had before. Like I will encourage my young youth so that we'll come together and make the change because we are tired of this country.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and indeed Maxwell coming all the way from the Ashanti region and Northeast just to be a part of this. It looks like this is going to be an interesting dynamics going into the election.
Exactly, and that's what we've seen, on the campaign trail, because in some of the areas that we visited in the Upper East region, in the Volta region, sometimes the flag bearer will get to some of the locations as late as 11 p.m. and you still find people, waiting. Some of them will tell you that they've been waiting since like 2 p.m. and 11 p.m. they're still there, not moving, an inch. But I think that the NDC Youth Manifesto gave us a foretaste of what is to come. And if you go to the exhibition center also, you'll see extracts of the manifesto that will be presented on some wooden planks there as well. And one of the interesting things that I saw, which I think we've not really heard much about, that I saw, which is more or less like a scoop actually. The NDC is promising that it's going to give 30%, appointments to women. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Well, that's why we're here, and that's why we're disclosing it first on your election headquarters.
30% appointments to women. But key amongst the things that we're likely to hear, judging from what I've heard and seen from the campaign trail, the 24-hour economy is going to feature strongly. Like I mentioned, in all the speeches in all the regions that we visited, he never missed the opportunity to speak about the 24-hour economy. Also going to feature prominently will be the establishment of the National Women's Bank. He talked about that in a lot of the places that we visited. Also, the free senior high school policy. And first-time voters, those who just turned 18, they form a very big constituency of this electoral, process. So the NDC is not missing the opportunity to send a message across to them as well. He has been talking about the free senior high school policy, and in a lot of the regions that we visited, you hear him telling the electorates that they shouldn't buy into any propaganda from the governing NPP that says that when the NDC comes, it's going to scrap the free senior high school. His message in all of the regions that we visited is that you're going to make the free senior high school better. And another thing that he's been saying is that you're going to decentralize the food procurement process. That's been also one of the challenges of the free senior high school. He says that if he's elected as president, he will decentralize the process such that the headmasters of the various senior high schools will be the ones going to the market to procure food for the students, not the National Food Buffer Stock Company. He says he's going to extend the free senior high school policy to cover private students and private institutions. Quite a lot
indeed. And fortunately, it's a good time to speak to, of course, the Deputy National Organizer of the NDC, who is also joining us, Elikem Kotoko, is here. And Elikem, if you could just come over, let's try and get a feel of what it is that is happening today. A lot of the dignitaries are coming from this end. Quite a a charged atmosphere, I see. The NDC appears to be poised for action come December 2024.
There's a clear indication that you have Ghanaians gathered here. That is my happiness.
Not NDC supporters. You didn't bust these people here. People are
see,
coming all the way from Ashanti region northeast.
For instance,
how did they get here?
For instance, a typical NDC person will not even be clad in blue, and you can see people clad in blue. They are all Ghanaians who have decided that there's somebody who can give clarity in policy, and that is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. People have voluntarily decided. You can see there are no buses here where people have been bussed. It is to tell you they have voluntarily come here themselves.
Really, elegant.
I'm telling you as a matter of fact.
All these people you haven't.
No, nobody has been bussed.
No 50 Ghana. No.
The only reason why you will see all people. One other reason you find many other people from the regions is that we held our National Executive Council meeting here. So all regional executives also have come here. As you can see, the invitation is to certain specific people. That is the more reason why all these people are outside. That tells you that they could never have been bussed. If not, they would have been given access in. Unfortunately, the inside allows for only about 1,650. We have, however, made provision outside there that can take almost 2,000 people. That place is also equally full. Here is full. The walkway through is equally full. It is very organic, and you can tell. Nobody will bus people here and get them stranded. Nobody will bounce people and want them to just come and stand here, even in the rain or in the drizzle. So it is organic. It is because His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC is the only alternative to ensuring we reset Ghana. And what we intend to do is to make sure we give clarity in policy. Unfortunately, last week you saw not even a regional minister, a regional chairman of our brothers was able to speak well. Meanwhile, these are the people who have been attacking the NDC that we are not good, we are not educated, we can't read well. We now know it's not only Wuntomi and Abronye, but rather they also have the Western Regional Chairman in addition to them, which was an embarrassment. You saw how a young lady from the tertiary institution came to say that they had created 21 million jobs. I don't know where that is coming from. But what you will witness from here today is clarity. The speakers will be concise, brief, and let everybody know what the NDC has in line for the Ghanaian.
We all want peace for the 2024 general elections. Is the NDC committing to peace? We've just seen, for instance, what it is that your chairperson had in terms of exchange with members of the National Peace Council. And there are so many people asking the question, will John Dramani Mahama address that today? Will he speak about peace? Will he talk about committing to a peaceful transition of power? That's the question on the mind.
I would not want to take the wind out of the sail. I cannot.
You are a leading member of the NDC.
But I know that President Mahama will talk a lot about the economy, about the 24-hour economy, about the policies such as the bed for all for our brothers and sisters in the tertiary institution. He will talk about means by which he wants to fight corruption, which was never mentioned in our brothers and sisters manifesto the last time. Yes, His Excellency John Mahama may even talk about peace, but mind you, the national chairman has reiterated already that we are a peace-loving people. We do not need to sit down with the people we consider to be evil, who are perpetrators of evil. Mind you, the last election saw the death of people in Techiman South, 8 also dead in Ablekuma Central. The president and the MPP have been beneficiaries of those deaths. What have been their position? What is the Peace Council saying about that? It is the reason why we outlined those 6 conditions that we want prosecutions. If, for instance, somebody was caught with 1 million ballot papers and has not been prosecuted, then there cannot be peace without justice. So we are seeking justice.
So you don't want peace?
We want peace, but we are saying that we don't need to sit down with the MPP to sign a peace pact. Sorry, but that is just a piece of paper. We in the NDC know we are already peace-loving, but we have also let people know that, yes, we will not be sacrificed on the altar of peace come these elections. Reason being that we have been victims of peace in the last elections. That is why some people unfortunately lost their lives. If anybody draws a dagger, we will equally draw a dagger.
I don't think that's a fair statement. No. We're on national television.
Yes.
We want to encourage peace before and after the election. We are peaceful.
The NDC will not be the first person. Yeah. The NDC will not be the first to issue all.
But you would have to retract that statement.
I retract that. But I want to state on authority that the NDC will not sit aloof and look on for our members to be victimized, to be hurt or harmed, and somebody will tell us that we should embrace peace. That is not it. I mean, he who calls for equity must come with clean hands. If you tell me that an eye for an eye will make the world go blind, then you need to be careful you don't poke my eye, so I don't also poke yours. So we are peace-loving people, but we do not want to be taken for granted for the peace we love.
Okay, so beyond the outdooring of the document today, what will happen next? Because you are in charge of organization of the party. What will happen after the documents out out today?
I can tell you that the only breather we are going to have is tomorrow, because some have to travel as far as to the northern region. Right. But then from Monday, I am aware that, for instance, I will be in the eastern region on a 5-day tour with the national chairman. The flag bearer will also be on his tour. The running mate will be, so will there be other campaign platforms by various national, regional and constituency officers, equipping up the sentiments at the branch level to make sure that we get our messages across to the people to know what the NDC has in stock for them. If it is a fishing community, we must have a message that resonates with them. If it is a farming community, we will have a message for them. The major concern has been the teeming youth who are unemployed. That is a major threat to our national security, and we must all be concerned. It is the reason why when you had them here say that they had created 21 million jobs, you ask yourself how many people are in Ghana. If you have created 21 million jobs, then by now nobody should be unemployed in this country.
Are we sure the NPP said they created 21
million? Oh yes, unless you didn't listen. There was a very young, beautiful lady who actually said they created 21 million.
Come on,
and
that's not
on their platform. They said that.
Yeah, but that's not a rep of the NPP.
That is a rep. Anybody who mounted that platform is a rep of the NPP. Mind you, when they came to office in the first year, they said they created 1.85 million jobs. Then the second year, they said they created 855 or 59 jobs. So it keeps dropping. It's a zigzag. You don't know. The inconsistency is just too much.
A win for John Mahama?
A simple win for John Mahama.
No runoff.
Ghana is going to have for the first time the female vice president in Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. And there's no doubt about that.
Elikem, this is just the start of the day. It's promising to be a very long day. We wait to see what will happen after this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
And that's Elikem Kotoko, Deputy National Organizer of the National Democratic Congress, speaking to us here from the University of Education, Winneba. This is your election headquarters, our special coverage of the outdooring of the Manifesto, 2024 Manifesto of the National Democratic Congress, promising to reset Ghana on the premise of job creation, accountability and prosperity. My name is Blessed Suga. I'm doing this with Maxwell Agbagba. We are back after a breather and stay on your election headquarters. Back to you, Evans.
Blessed there on the ground with Maxwell. We'll be going back live there when that program starts. We'll be hearing from a few of the party executives. But this, after all, is the launch of the NDC's Manifesto for 2024. And so let's set this and put this in context before we hear what they have for us for 2024. And Wixing is with me here on Smart Wall. And one of the things that we will do, and we do, is to look at the promises over a period as we've seen it develop over the time. If you go to 2012, for example, that's the numbers tell a story, right? In 2012, when, of course, we had the sad incident of the former president passing, and John Mahama, sort of took over from him, the unexpired term that he had. This was on 7th July 2012. 24th July, yes. 24th July 2012. He took over, but the manifesto promise was 569. That was quite a lot. He won the elections then. And the key question then becomes, how much of what they put out did they implement? But then you come to 2016, the year they lost, and the promises increased quite significantly there, all the way to 666. That's huge. And at the time, we were on the IMF program.
Yes.
Right? And many thought 666 promises, how do you have the fiscal space to implement that? But it didn't make a difference. They put that many, and they still lost quite significantly.
And they lost, but the most significant thing for me is that in 2020, they came up with some 617 promises, okay? 617 promises, but look at it this way, Evans. In 2012, when they won, they had 569. By 2016, when they lost, they had 666. And then by 2020, now, the margin of loss here was close to 1 million votes, over 900,000 votes. By 2020, it had reduced, or the NDC's performance had improved, so the margin of loss now gets to 500,000, over 500,000. This is it for me. What is it that you want to achieve as a political party? You want to be able to tell the people what you want to do. And in telling the people what you want to do, you must identify the problems that people have and then proffer solutions to these problems. And so what we have seen the political parties do now is the fact that, look, in the past, we put out lots of promises, but these promises, many of them come back to haunt the political parties because they're just not able to implement them. What I would want to see today is whether from 617 would see a reduction, already, as we move forward, we'd see that in the youth manifesto,
88 at least is what we counted.
88 promises.
So that's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot. And remember, let's put this in context as we look forward to what they're about to launch. This is John Mahama, who early this year told us he was addressing a gathering and said he doesn't want to promise too many things because he expects that in 2025 and beyond, the economy is going to be even more challenging than it is today. And so he will not make all these lofty promises, knowing that the fiscal space will not be there to implement and execute. And when he said that, he was applauded for it because for the first time, you're hearing one of the candidates of the two main political parties restricting and limiting themselves in terms of the sheer number of promises that they were going to put out. I remember doing that story and speaking to people, analysts who say, well, it's refreshing to hear him say that because he is at least telling us that he is aware of the current economic circumstances that we find ourselves in, and that in 2025 is going to be even more difficult. And so that is going to influence how much he's promising. And so for us to have 88 already for the Youth Manifesto, that sets itself up for a bit more. But how many more is a question? And does it compare to 617?
This is the point also, Evans. You talk about the Youth Manifesto. But you and I, we said that because you have about 1 million young people, new voters, okay, you have more than 1 million of them, because the EC had conducted a previous, voter registration exercise. They have over 1 million people, about 2 million new voters. Now, that's enough. More than 1 million voters is enough to change elections based on the last election. And mind you, the last election, some persons may have lost their lives. That's something we know in 4 years. So this is the point. If you're any political party, you must target the group that you believe can turn things around for you. So I am not surprised that you have about 88 promises.
We'll get there. I think that's one of the areas that.
But let me just
we are talking about 88 before we actually get them.
Yeah, but let me just use this to do the analysis.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised there are a lot of promises with the youth. What I am concerned about, and this is the thing, because of a second-term curse, and I'll explain what I mean by a second-term curse, or an incumbency curse, particularly when you are an incumbent party and you're going into a third term, seeking a third term. The challenge is that you may have done it when you were in opposition. After the end of your first term, you may not be able to do it in your second term. And so you'd realize, you had Dr. Giselle, for instance, say, I'm trying to guess that's what he was trying to say, yeah, dear. And we talked about the fact that last week, on Sunday, this week, that the NPP didn't have those kind of slogans that they had in the past, in 2016, for instance, which everybody could remember. Now, what the NDC do say, because in the build-up to the 2019 primaries of the NDC, for instance, you had Spio Gabra make the point. What was John Mahama going to do? Okay? And I remember speaking at a time with Professor Stephen Adair, and he said, what was John Mahama's promise to Ghana? And he said, when I said, well, he's going to talk, he talked about a continuation and other things. He asked the question, is to also a policy. But this is what you're going to see. Already, you've had, the 133, it's a nice, the 24-hour economy. In 2020, you had the big push. John Mahama now would come up with slogans in 2024 if what we are hearing is anything to go by. And once they do that, it makes their campaign easier.
Yeah, let's pause. We'll come to the specifics of what we can expect, but we need to always build from what we know they already have. And in terms of the focus for 2020, they focused on education. And remember that at the time when we were doing the 2020 elections, you had a 2016 elections which had been fought around free SHS. In fact, the incumbent president used that as his trump card, and it was very successful. And that's why when he came in 2017, he wanted to implement that. So in 2020, remember when we're going to the elections, we've had the first graduates of the free SHS who are now about to vote in that election for the first time. And the NDC had to find a way of fighting that. And so the focus was for them a bit on education. You have 86 promises on education alone in 2020. Now, you look at where economy is, right? This is education. And this was the economy in 2020. This year, we're expecting that this will reverse. We expect the economy to be the one that has more focus. And so you're going to see more policy proposals and interventions for that instead of education.
And you're definitely right, because why? It also would make a lot of political sense, because at the time, there were challenges even with free SHS. I mean, people are complaining about free SHS. So what do you do if you're a political party? What you do, Evans, is actually to make the point that at the period when your main opponents are actually talking more about the economy. Okay, they're talking about the economy because the NPP at the time had a bit of leverage when it comes to the economy. The NPP at the time had the momentum when it got to the economy. Because mind you, even though in 2020, it was the beginning of the challenges that have gotten us to where we are today, the NPP still had a few things going for them in 2020 when it comes to the economy. So if you were the NDC, you are not going to go head to head with them on the economy. What you're going to do is to have a conversation, one of the areas, the sectors that you believe needed enough improvement. And in 2020, even though we're talking about free SHS, even though we're talking about all the good things about education, there was a lot more things that had to be done within the educational sector. And that's what the NDC sought to do. After all, if you remember, the NDC post-2012, okay, had to promise a progressively free education because at the time, the exigencies of the time warranted that. And so I wasn't surprised they focused a lot more on education because even with the economy, at the point when we were going into election 2020, the NPP had the momentum on the economy. And the last thing you wanted to do was to go head to head on the economy with them.
But we expect now that in 2024, knowing where we are with the economy, that this will reverse. Education will not, and we saw with the MPP last week, that education is no longer the focus for Bawumia.
No.
It shifted to the economy for obvious reasons. And we expect that to be the same for John Mahama. Although the slogan leading to this has been the focus on the free tertiary for first-year students, it's a key thing. Now let's look at the others. And if you look at the spread, governance obviously was important, but the least focus was environment, science, and technology. And I highlight that because in 2025, there's a lot of focus now on environment. The environment, climate change is more important this year and going into next year than it was in 2020. Yeah. We've seen the devastation impact of Galamsey, for example. And we're looking to see what his proposal is going to be on that and generally on the environment. It's definitely not going to be one that will sit as the least focused item in the manifesto. By the way, I want to quickly say that we're seeing live shots from the auditorium itself, and it appears the program itself is just about starting. I've seen the Speaker of Parliament is there. How significant is that, by the way? He's seated there amongst them.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Also, he's a member of the NDC.
He is.
You expect him to be there. He cannot say he's not going to be there. Now, if the NDC is successful as in the 2024 elections, you would expect Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbing to continue as Speaker of Parliament. He needs to, show workings. Yeah,
there's a very prominent man of God who is now speaking to the crowd there, and we'll go that you see him in your shot there. And that's John Mahama in your shot too, with the wife all seated. So this program has started, and they're setting the stage for this. I believe there's going to be an opening prayer. But let's get into building the context for you. And one of the things that we've also been paying attention to, Winston, is the similarities.
Before you go, let me just do this about the environment bit, because ordinarily, and for me in particular, climate change today is so important to me more than it was years ago. Every time and every weekend, but for this program, I probably would have been in the farm. Every weekend I drive to my farm, I see the crops that are reliant on rain drying out. The effects of climate change. We thought it was far away from us. And so today, it's important we have this conversation. But having said that also, let me just add the last one. I want to hear, most importantly, all the irrigation plans we've put in place, from Kwame Nkrumah to Achampong, to whoever, a manifestation of proper irrigation-based farming. Not we shall irrigate the Accra Plains. That's all it's, that was always in the budget. But I want to see work when it comes to irrigation. When you're faced with a problem, it's an indication that you're not doing things right, you must improve.
So that basically is one of the key things we're expecting to be a focus. Another thing, obviously, that we do in analyzing and building into the manifesto is to say, which promises are they repeating and is there justification for it? The 24-hour economy that has now become their trump card, has become the most memorable, most sexy campaign promise, their flagship, if you like. So if you think about the NDC going into 2025, you think about 24 hours economy, it has resonated with a lot of people. It isn't new. It isn't new not only because we know it was in the NDPC's plan, it isn't new because it was actually in their 2020 manifesto. Just that it did not have the sexy appeal it had today because of the way it was couched then. And so it actually emphasizes the point. Framing and your ability to brand and achieve a certain power of focus through the way you frame a subject around a policy is important. It's as important as the substance and the challenges that the proposal is seeking to deal with. Because in 2020, you see, they said in the 2020 manifesto, we will create a 3-shift economy that operates for 24 hours non-stop. That was 24-hour economy.
Oh, the same thing.
The same thing. And then in 2024 now, they're talking about implementing 24-hour economy. And that 24-hour economy, that phrase has caught on.
But this is the reason, I like to go back into time. In 2008, right, Akufo-Addo was promising free SHS. Evans, he promised free SHS in 2008. Now, that at the time, and there was a whole lot of controversy as to where it started. Pakwesi Sindum claims that, well, I started this whole conversation about free SHS, and Akufo-Addo joins it. But then in 2012, the NPP's main promise in that campaign was what? Free SHS. That didn't stop till 2016. In 2020, the NDC's manifesto, the main things, big push, 10 billion. Then they were talking about the legalization of Okada. Yeah. So you had the Okada song and everything. The 24-hour economy did not really find itself as the main policy.
It didn't, yeah.
But today,
it was there, it wasn't right.
It was there. It was there. And so the NDC can always make that. Well, we said it in 2020. But today, this is 24-hour economy. And the young lady who, spoke at the Youth Manifesto said when the professors ask you, say 133. I mean, same job, same 3 shifts, 3 jobs. So 133, and that's the explanation of, the 24-hour economy. The 24-hour economy this time is working. But then again, the NDC are not even milking this enough. They're not milking the 24-hour economy enough. And so I am expecting, what I want to see today is that in the manifesto, we'll talk about that later, but I mean, if they're able to explain it further and get the people to appreciate, the young girl has done a good job for them. And so what they need to do now is to go out there and milk it more.
The bottom line is we're expecting to hear more of the 24-hour economy in this manifesto. It must flesh it out a bit more as we get into the substance of that. Another thing that we saw, abolish the mandatory national service and then the teacher licensure was the key one. They've repeated it without the issue around the abolishment of the national service.
So the national service here was actually the mandatory national service for teachers.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we've had this talk about. So I just
they're going to abolish the licensure examination.
Licensure exam for graduate teachers, and it's something that we'd want to see. It's been a conversation, and you've had John Mahama make that point over again. The departure now is that currently you probably do not hear more about the mandatory national service. Also because there's a lot of conversation about national service and the mandatory service. Now, Bamia is talking about the fact that for people who get jobs, you don't need to go through national service. Something I think, at this point in time.
So that's one of the key things. Yeah. And I found this interesting, this 0.5 reduction in terms of the increase in the District Assembly Common Fund allocation. In 2020, they had said that they would increase it, right, to 7.5, from 5% currently to 7.5. In 2024, it's no longer 7.5 by 7. I don't know what's happening there in terms of the focus.
Maybe as the economy grows. But I mean, it's the same principle. If you want to use it at the time, you want to. But
so why have they changed that? But it's just a minor thing. But we noticed that clearly, this is a party that has fought tooth and nail, even in opposition.
Yeah.
Including one of your own, Benjamin Kodo, going to the courts to get the courts to get government to give the input allocations in as they should, according to law. So you would expect that this is something that is important to them. The likes of Benjamin Kodo, the likes of the Odododo MP, Nilan Tevanapa, will not allow the party to keep 5%. They want an increase. And the key question, though, and we'll come to the expanding on that, is the 5% allocation itself has been a challenge for governments, not only for this government. In terms of releasing it on time, it has been a challenge. Now you're increasing it, the proposal is to 7%. That will pose a more significant challenge to the NDC, considering the challenges that we expect to have in 2025 with the economy.
Evans, I mean, now that you've invited a bit of opinion on the District Assembly's Common Fund, I still do not think that the District Assembly's Common Fund in its current state is the way to go. We need to have a conversation about this. So we're starting off in 1992 when it was important for us to do this. But in today's Ghana, for instance, does it make economic sense, first and foremost, that Accra Metropolitan Assembly expects the state to give Accra Metropolitan Assembly more money than Mpoho District Assembly, where I come from? It doesn't make economic sense. But also there's another problem. We do not need 261 districts in this country because some of them are not economically viable. We need to recognize that fact. You don't need to break AMA into 4 pieces. It doesn't make economic sense. Put them together. But then this is what you have to do. You need to have a conversation about the collection of taxes. You need to have a conversation about which taxes the assemblies can collect and which taxes the state can collect. Is it possible, for instance, that when it comes to corporate income taxes, for instance, the assemblies can collect them for areas where these companies are and where they operate?
That's very minute detail in terms of, the analysis of this. Let's just set the tone a bit more. That conversation we need to have. And we need to see whether the NDC, in the details that will put out today, addresses some of the concerns that you made, beyond the fact that they want to increase the allocation. And then another key thing that they are repeating in terms of the similarity, and this fits into the broader context of having a leaner government. And they've said they also want to run a government of not more than, 60 ministers. And one of the ministries that they will have to consolidate, and they've promised they will, is aviation and railways, putting that together to have your transport ministry. And this is something that they had in 2020, and you're bringing it back in 2024 also. And I have asked the question, another thing, if once they launch this and we sit to have a conversation with them, I want to see, so which ministries are you sacrificing? At least here, they've narrowed down to the transport ministry to tell us what will happen there. We know about railways ministry.
The aviation now,
ministry.
Aviation now has been, from 2021, has become part of the transport ministry. We still have the railway
ministry as a standalone.
As a standalone, and I do not think that you need a railway ministry.
So that's a key thing too that they're repeating. A few of them too that they still bringing back, expanding and including the free SHS, including in the free SHS private schools also. And by the way, in 2020, the big controversy that erupted around what review meant. The MPP had spun that to mean you're going to cancel the free SHS. In fact, in the actual print of the 2020 manifesto, the review meant expanding the free SHS to cover private schools, but also abolishing the double-track system. They've repeated that word for word in this year's in the manifesto. But what they've managed to do more effectively than they did in 2020 was to get us now to appreciate what their review meant. Remember, that spin of equating review to cancellation was effective. It was effective in the community.
And I must admit that even for all of us, I think that even as media, sometimes, and we're doing that today, in 2020 we could have done more because we could have just said, this is what they say. But sometimes also you'd expect the political parties themselves
to tell their own story, yes.
But now it's something, and we've said, an informed electorate. That's, that's our motto for this year's election. That's the theme, an informed electorate. So we're going to get you every detail you need. So you're very right. Now they've made it very short, very simple. Expand and include private schools in free SHS. Okay? I don't know what they mean by abolish the double track system. Now, it is not like the same double track as we knew it. That has changed, but I'm sure when they come to launch the manifesto, they will inform us more about this and would ask the relevant questions.
So that is the NDC's review. And as for the coding bit, it's something that for both parties believe must happen, and it was in the 2021, in the 2024 manifesto as well. Now, by the way, I say 2024 manifesto, it's not a manifesto yet. It's a youth manifesto. But also, we clip these from what John Mahama has been saying. They've been campaigning before now. And so we clip this from in terms of some of the things they've said they will do already. Now, this for me is interesting. In terms of how many of the promises that we've had them put out so far can put under the category of free. And we are isolating this because we are in a very dire economic straits, unprecedented economic territory in terms of the challenges that the economy is facing. So when somebody comes to you and says, I'm going to give you something for free, when you're approaching in 2025, when the economy is going to be even more difficult in terms of their fiscal space, you need to approach that with a bit more scrutiny. So we wanted to count compared to 2020. In 2020, they had 25 promises that they said we're going to simply implement for free. We are not going to pay anything for it. But see, so far, that's sharp decline in that number. So far, only 4. So far. I'm going to pay attention to the manifesto itself and see how many more promises are they making and how many free things are they promising to deliver us? Because we need to ask that question. If they do so, how are you going to fund that?
It's a very important question to ask. And as we've stated here over and over again, look, nobody is against free things, but we're against giving.
And the Central Regional Chairman of the NDC is addressing the folks there on the ground. We'll get that, but you're making a substantive point.
Well, I'm not against giving things out free. I'm against giving things out to people who can pay. And so, I mean, if you're giving me something for free and I can pay, I say, don't give it to me. Give it to the person who needs it. And then what I can afford, let it be savings onto the state. And so it will be important to hear today the means testing that will be done in giving out free things.
But by the way, in terms of the free tertiary for first-year students, they have said it is for everybody who qualifies to enter the university, public university. So there's no means testing there. It is for everybody. And of course, civil society have said, learning the lessons from free SHS implementation, from a party that criticized the NPP for doing a wholesale implementation of this, including even paying for boarding. They criticized that, but they also wanted means testing, targeting of that policy. It is a bit of a double standard to also promise something free in the education sector, albeit at the tertiary level first year, and make it not targeted, not based on what the means testing is telling you.
And I've stated, and I've said this before, and I repeat it. The principle is the same. I was against wholesale free SHS. I'm against wholesale academic facility user fee payment. Means testing. If you send your child to school, you can pay your child's school fees. Why should it be the case that you, Evans Mensah, I, Winston Amma, would have our children benefit from this? We can pay. The man who cannot pay deserves to benefit.
So that for us is key to watch. And we are in unprecedented economic times, really, in our life as a country. And so we're paying attention to how many free things the parties are promising. That then will tell us whether we should take them seriously or we shouldn't. And as we go forward in terms of analyzing all the manifestos, this will come up. And the NDC, I remember talking to Osokuno on this particular subject, and he says in the implementation, they may make room for those who can pay whilst entering the first year.
You see, in the implementation, show me.
Yeah.
Show me. Tell me this is what you intend to do. Don't say you may. You see, tell us what you want to do. And we want to do this because, look, they should actually give us the whole bit about means testing. And we've talked about the LEAP being a first step. So those who are on a livelihood empowerment against poverty program. So those families should be the first. Why? The University of Ghana has a financial aid office. Are you saying they don't know persons who need help? They know the people who need help. Let us not forget that. And so this is a country that is struggling. This is a country that has implemented a domestic debt exchange. This is a country that is still taking money from the treasury bill market, because a lot of people cannot go for government of Ghana, but would you go and put your money in government of Ghana bonds? The problem is that it is important to make savings, and we don't make savings by continuously promising free. You make savings by ensuring that the people who need it the most are giving that assistance.
Yeah.
Those who can afford, they pay.
Because when you give it to those who need the most, you can save a bit more to do other things, because the opportunity cost question then comes in. So that's what we are watching to see, and that's the point you're making. That so far, in terms of counting all the promises that we saw in the Youth Manifesto, 88 promises so far, 88. And we're going to be hearing from the chairman of the NDC Manifesto Committee now, Professor Kweku Danso-Boafo. He's about to speak. I want to take that because he would also help us appreciate what they've done in the manifesto that we're about to hear a bit more of from John Dramani Mahama. This is the chairman of the NDC's Manifesto Committee.